Jordon Flowerree, known to hundreds of thousands as Jojo Snow, has a presence that feels as familiar as a friend's kitchen table. Through her YouTube channel, she opens a window into a life that moves with the turning of the seasons. The clink of a feed bucket on frosted mornings, the rustle of hay in the barn, the low hum of a tractor in the distance, her world is not one of hurried schedules and crowded streets, but of rhythms shaped by the land. Her rise to this point was quiet, almost accidental. She did not set out to become a public figure or to gather an audience from across the country. What people see now, a woman in worn boots moving steadily through the tasks of a farm, was built over years of change, loss, and hard work. Long before she was a name known online, Jordon was simply living her life, one season at a time. That life took a new shape when she met Kale Zane Nicodemus in Granbury, Texas. Granbury is the kind of place where people know not just your name, but the stories that came before it. Kale stood out in any setting. He was a man who had worn many hats: athlete, craftsman, oil field worker, and each left its mark on him. He had played football and basketball, run track with the kind of determination that pushes a person past their limits. Later, he knew the roar of the oil fields, the metallic scent of diesel in the air, and the weight of tools that could turn steel into something useful. Jordon's life, up until then, had been quieter. But when they came together, something in the way they worked and dreamed began to blend. They planted gardens, raised animals, and turned a modest house into a home that felt rooted. Kale's gifts to her were made by hand, wooden pieces meant for use, not decoration, each one speaking of care and permanence. Side by side, they shaped the land into something that carried their mark. On June 1st, 2021, that life was shaken to its core. Kale passed away at just 31 years old. Loss came suddenly, leaving no time to prepare. In the days after, grief settled over everything. The funeral passed in a blur, and when the last guest left, the silence in the house became a weight of its own. Jordon found herself holding the life they had built, but now alone, unsure how to carry it forward. For months, survival meant keeping to the barest essentials, feeding herself, tending to the animals, maintaining the home. Grief did not follow a straight path. It circled back without warning, sometimes as sharp as the first day. Nearly 2 years passed in this narrowed world before she began to share pieces of her life online. In March 2023, she posted her first short videos on TikTok. There was no strategy, no polished production, just glimpses of her daily life. Her profile described it plainly: cold plunging, farming, gardening, outdoors, animals, hunting, grieving. Those who saw themselves in her words stayed. Others passed by. Then came the video that brought her into wider view. A single moment, her hand resting on the green hood of a John Deere tractor. Her voice carrying the unhurried tone of someone who speaks from experience. It was a simple clip, yet it reached over 3 million views. People followed her to YouTube, where her longer videos revealed more of her story, leaving Kansas, moving to North Dakota, learning to live alongside loss instead of under its weight. North Dakota became her new beginning. It was also Kale's connection to his own roots. He had farmed with his family there before his passing. The state's farmland stretched in endless lines beneath skies that seemed to touch the earth. Winters were long and bitter, cold enough to freeze metal, with winds strong enough to push a grown man off balance. Farming in such a place required both physical skill and mental resolve. Her new home came with more land and larger responsibilities. Calves needed bottle feeding before sunrise. Fences demanded repair after every storm. Machinery, sometimes older than she was, needed careful handling to keep it running through the season. Winter nights pressed in early and the dark stayed late. Some days the wind carried snow in fine, stinging sheets, making even the short walk to the barn feel like a journey. Through all of this, her camera became a quiet companion. Filming did not interrupt the work, it simply recorded what was already happening. Viewers saw calves bucking in the pasture, the careful work of planting in spring, the steam rising from a mug of coffee in a cold kitchen. The videos were not staged. They were life as it was lived, in all its routine and unpredictability. The audience that gathered around her channel grew steadily. Some came for the farming, others for the animals, but many stayed because they heard in her voice the truth of someone who had endured loss. By the time her subscriber count passed 800,000 and her videos had been watched hundreds of millions of times, her channel had become not just a creative outlet but a source of income. Advertising revenue, merchandise through bunker branding, and select sponsorships provided the stability to keep the farm going. Still, life in North Dakota was far from easy. There were days when filming meant braving a snowstorm, when editing took place late into the night, and when messages from grieving strangers required time and care to answer. Yet slowly, her life began to widen again. After a year of living alone, Jordon reached out to Zach. They had known of each other in the quiet way small communities connect people without direct introduction. From their first conversation, there was a sense of steadiness. Zach did not try to replace what she had lost. Instead, he worked alongside her, through planting seasons, through repairs, through the small daily work that keeps a farm alive. With Zach, farming became more than survival. It became a joint effort toward building something lasting. Together, they expanded the business, continued fulfilling merchandise orders, and marked new milestones on the channel. Yet the work remained unpredictable. Machinery broke down, storms struck without warning. Some mornings began under skies so gray they seemed to press down on the land, and some nights ended in exhaustion that reached the bone. But in these moments, Zach was there, sometimes with an extra set of hands in the field, sometimes with a cup of coffee waiting on the kitchen table. Over time, the seasons themselves became part of the story. Spring brought the first shoots through thawed soil and the busy work of planting. Summer carried the hum of insects in the heat and the steady rhythm of irrigation. Autumn was marked by harvests and the smell of cut fields. Winter arrived with silence broken only by the crunch of snow under boots and the lowing of cattle waiting for feed. Each season brought its own challenges and rewards, and each one became part of the narrative she shared with her audience. North Dakota has not softened her, but it has refined her focus. Here, she has learned to prioritize the essentials, repair the fence before the cattle wander, stock the pantry before the roads turn to ice, plant enough to feed herself and sell the rest. She has learned that beginnings often arrive in the middle of endings, and that life on the land is never truly predictable. Today, Jojo Snow's story continues to unfold in the same way it began, through the steady work of building a life. Her videos capture the honesty of that work, from the long hours in the field to the quiet moments at home. They are reminders that the most enduring lives are often built slowly, in the company of others who understand the weight and the worth of each day. And so her audience returns season after season to see what comes next. Not for spectacle, but for the rare comfort of watching a life shaped by the land, lived with both hands in the soil and shared with a quiet grace that makes it feel as if you have been invited to walk alongside her, step by step, through the wide open plains.